Hey everyone, this is Chris from Bronx Edible Nursery. I'm sitting in my backyard right now, and behind me I have hundreds of chestnut trees growing, and I wanted to talk a bit about chestnuts with you. I'm very excited about chestnuts and first learned about them from my dad, who always ate them around the holidays by roasting them up on this pan that he dedicated just to growing chestnuts. He grew up with them where he lived in Italy as a kid, and they had this whole mountain just covered in chestnut trees that everybody from the village and town can go up and just harvest chestnuts every year. Chestnuts are a really cool nut tree because they actually do drop nuts every year, whereas other trees don't. We went to Italy together and went at that right time of year to be able to walk through that forest of chestnut trees. And nowadays, not everybody's picking them all up. So there was incredible abundance of chestnuts that we were just able to pick up and fill up a bucket of chestnuts relatively quickly. It was really an amazing thing, this awesome seasonal experience that all the people in this town just get to go freely up and walk and harvest these chestnuts that people from hundreds of years before them have selected for and propagated and help create. There was, of course, private orchards and fields of chestnut trees that people collected from and sold, but it was really an amazing thing to experience. And uh, America was covered in chestnut trees. America was covered in billions of chestnut trees, a different kind of chestnut, but still just the same, and producing an abundance of nuts every year for wildlife and the people that lived here. Unfortunately, they were mostly all wiped out from a fungal blight that came from chestnut trees from Asia, and it's really a sad thing to think about how much less wildlife we have now in America because of losing those trees, specifically the mammals who ate those nuts, but there's plenty of birds who eat the nuts and insects that live on the trees, things like that, that are part of the ecosystem. And now something that we no longer have, and how incredible even the wood is for wood makers and house makers. We still have evidence, and homes made out of beautiful chestnut wood. And you can still find some American chestnut wood in forests today because of how rot resistant it is, which is an amazing property of the tree. So it's really an amazing mission that a lot of people have in America to restore chestnuts. There are purists of the American genetics that just want to bring back that American chestnut, which is challenging because of the blight that I mentioned. They're working on finding American chestnut genetics that are naturally blight resistant, which is tough because when people started hearing of the blight coming and that it was going to destroy all the chestnut trees, they started cutting down a tremendous amount of chestnut wood, which didn't leave us with as diverse of genetics, and maybe some of those trees that were cut down would have been genetically resistant, and we would have them now. There's also groups that have been working on genetically engineering and modifying. But one thing that you can do is mix genetics. So you can mix American chestnut with Asian chestnut varieties that have that natural resistance. And, they're not all perfectly absolved and won't get damaged from fungal issues, but they'll be fine and healthy and grow, and it'll be okay. Yeah, so a lot of people don't like that because they just want to restore the Native American ecosystems, and there's a huge debate about native versus non-native that we can get into. But I think it's interesting for me as a first-generation American. My family is from Italy. Um, I'm not native to this area, and where I live in the Bronx is incredibly diverse with people with genetics from all over the world. And unfortunately, us bringing over trees from Asia introduced this blight. And so for us to now not allow ourselves to use Asian genetics to restore chestnuts to America is kind of hard for me to accept and wrap my head around. I much prefer, now that we're in this situation, take advantage of the genetics that we have available to us and mix and bring chestnuts back to at least where we live. I live in a city where everything's been pretty much clear cut. Is there really much sign of native ecosystems? Um, there's suburban sprawl for miles outside of the city. I think in those areas where humans are, ideally introducing native would be good, but I think it's incredibly valuable to bring in these like mixed genetic chestnut trees that could really establish a lot of food for humans and wildlife to come for hundreds of years potentially. Um, and I think that's an incredibly beautiful thing. It would be a missed opportunity for us not to do it. We're obviously already doing it. But I'm definitely more in that philosophy that, at least in my area where I live, we've gone so far past the pendulum swinging, planting all different types of ornamentals and non-native things. I think mixing genetics and putting some Asian chestnut trees here that are blight resistant is okay. So that's why I grow them, and I'm trying to help other people introduce them to their areas where they live. I have a very small plot of land where I'm sitting, and I'm very fortunate enough to have it so that I can grow hundreds of seedlings in a very small area that then I can disperse to other people who live in other areas, like friends and family, and now different clients and customers. One seedling behind me, one tree, if protected right and set up for success, can create tons of chestnuts that then could be spread and propagated with human interaction or squirrels even further. So that's something that you could help set in motion for hundreds of years in your area. Again, chestnuts are really amazing because they drop a full load of a crop of seed every year that we could harvest and eat and store and cook and bake with. In Italy, it's very common to make flour with chestnuts because they call chestnuts or the chestnut tree like a bread tree because it's so high in carbohydrates. The flour is incredibly sweet. There's a lot of sugar in a chestnut, and it's commonly used for desserts and something that really could be more popular here in America if we established more orchards. What I'm growing here is more for the home context. I've been growing chestnuts for maybe 3 years now. Yeah, not 4 yet. 3 years now, and I've learned from the best. I've learned obviously online a lot, but I've worked at different nurseries and farms, specifically Twisted Tree Farm with Akiva Silver. Big shout out to him. And I would recommend reading his book if you haven't, if you're interested in planting trees. He has a book called Trees of Power, which is a very powerful book and very inspiring to learn about certain trees and planting them. And I believe he talks about chestnuts in there. Yeah, I think he does. Um, and the way I'm growing them behind me is similar to what a lot of people do. These are air pruned boxes. So I reclaimed some pallets, some free wood, and I assembled these boxes that are raised up off the ground a couple inches. I'm not sure if you could see that here. And this air gap is what prunes the roots. It's called air pruning. So when you put a seedling in a lot of trees, they send down an incredibly long taproot, which helps kind of stabilize the tree and where it is. Mostly it does get nutrients and water and things from the ground, but the tree doesn't really need it. So if you were to plant this tree in the ground and then try and dig it up and I ship it to you, you would do a lot of damage to the tree. It would really shock it to have that long taproot removed. Better to prune it before it gets too long. So here, once that root touches the air, it gets pruned because the root can't be exposed to the air. And what it does is that taproot just stops, but the tree wants to keep growing roots, so it just creates a lot of a more bushy root. It creates a very fibrous root system, and each end of each root is where a lot of that tree is taking in its nutrients and partnering with beneficial bacteria and microbes and all that and taking in water. So It really creates a really amazing root system. There's big tree growers out there that just even go under beds that are in ground and just kind of slice all those roots with a knife to be able to get a similar effect. But this is a very like cost-effective, space-efficient way, and a low-maintenance way to do that same thing, which is very exciting. Again, because me as someone who doesn't have a lot of land can have a really high impact on, you know, regenerating the ecology and local and just local food sources for people, and wildlife. I'm looking at a blue jay that's right here that would eat chestnuts, which I guess is a good thing to talk about. These are protected by wire meshes, so blue jays and squirrels can't come in here. There's usually a top on it, but I've removed the top on these because the trees are growing so large, and you don't. Ideally, we're diverse in the genetics that we plant, to create some resiliency, but it's really nice when you can get really good genetics of trees that grow really well or produce a really nice sized nut. There's a lot of different traits that are selected for in cultivation, and behind me are all seeds that I sourced from some of the best out there, and finding those best cultivars. And mainly the stock is from Perfect Circle Farm up in Vermont. I really appreciate the work that they do, traveling to so many old chestnut orchards and sites looking for some of the best genetics that we have available to us. The air prune boxes, admittedly, are maybe a little too deep, but these trees are really happy and healthy. So if you received one of these trees, they should be good to go. I'm going to when they go dormant, dig them up and account for how many I have, and make them available to people, either directly or on my website. If you end up buying a tree from me, I really want you to be successful in establishing that tree. It's really important to protect your trees. So I would send you a guide or some information. You can always reach out to me at bronxediblenursery@gmail.com, or comment here, and just let me know if you have any questions or need help. This is a mission-driven business that I have here. I really just want to help people, even if it doesn't directly make me money. Help people establish more food and medicine in their area, and enjoy that food for years to come, and help make it available for other people like your loved ones and neighbors. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you so much if you watched the whole thing. My website is bronxediblenursery.com, and thank you for watching.